Can you get me some ice, please? Lobster tails. Not quite Italian, not quite American. They're kind of both. There's something that I've wanted to make ever since I went to New York 3 years ago. We went into a bakery for kind of like a midday snack one day, and we found these weird, flaky, scaly looking things that were full of some kind of a light cream. And I was like, what the heck did I just purchase for probably $6 in New York? And I found out they're called lobster tails. They originated from something called Sfogliatelle in Italy. And when they were brought over here, someone decided that they needed a cream puff in the middle. Now, the way that works is it's a flaky, laminated pastry with a cream puff in the center to create an air pocket so that you can fill it with cream instead of the traditional ricotta filling that you normally see in Italy with a sfogliatella. Very first thing is you mix a shaggy dough of flour, water, honey, and salt. That's it. No yeast, no leavener of any kind, just those pieces. And it turns into something that does not look like bread, it does not look like pasta, and it does not look like it's ever gonna come together. But you throw it in the fridge for a couple hours, and for some reason, when you take it out and you start to knead it, it comes together. Maybe it's because the gluten has been hydrated with the little bit of water that's in there while it sat in the fridge. Maybe the gluten relaxed and could actually take some of that water. Not exactly sure how the science of that one works. But as soon as I kneaded it and it still looked really awful and not like it was gonna work, we got out the pasta roller and tried to roll this thing through a pasta machine. Now I'm using the sheeter for this one, so not cutting it, not turning it into spaghetti or fettuccine or anything like that. It's more like turning it into a lasagna sheet or something similar. So very first thing, you roll it through and half of it falls out. It just does not look like it's gonna ever work into something that you've seen that's pretty. It doesn't look nice. So you have to fold it again and pass it back through the pasta sheeter. And then you just continue to pull your pasta sheeter smaller and smaller and smaller until suddenly between levels 6 and 8, the bread, pasta, dough turns into something that can be stretched, something that kind of sticks together. I was realizing that if there was holes in something, you just kind of push it together and throw it back through the pasta roller. Once that's all the way through and it looks ribbony and pretty, you roll it as best as you can onto a rolling pin. Now, normally in an Italian bakery here in the US, in New York or another Italian area of the country, they have these really cool rigs that hold a rolling pin specifically for their lobster tail making. I don't have that, so we used bowls. Now, putting a very heavy marble rolling pin onto bowls was a little bit scary. I probably should have used a regular rolling pin, but I wanted to keep the dough cold, so marble it was. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take an ungodly amount of butter and we're gonna roll that onto what seems like crepey old people skin. And as you roll it onto the old people skin, you roll it up into a little roll, kind of like a cinnamon roll style of roll. But the thing is you're rolling it with butter. So you're creating lamination layers without the headache of making envelope folds over and over like you do with croissants. So once you've rolled all the way through pastry dough with ungodly amounts of butter and lots of time and effort trying not to rip this pastry apart, then you can stick it in the fridge overnight. Yes, overnight. This is a 2-day project. So once you stick all of your pastry that's been rolled with copious amounts of fat into the fridge, you can go rest and think about how the very next day will have just as much work. So in the morning, or whenever you decide to start cutting your lobster tail rolls out of this big log of dough, just take one log out of the fridge at a time. You don't need to have every single one. Now, what you have to have ready is you already have to have a pâte à choux or cream puff / eclair dough ready to go. So I made one of those that I've done before. That's something that is already a technique in itself. But with this one, it's multiple pastries going into multiple pastries with a very complicated cream that gets filled in the middle. So once you get your pâte à choux done, you can go ahead and you can slice little logs of these. I've heard that doing a disc that's 75 grams is ideal. I was not about to weigh every single disc. So I just kind of eyeballed 12 of these things out of a single roll. And then what you're supposed to do is all those hundreds of layers you made the day before while rolling your pastry with the butter is you're supposed to push onto the pastry and really separate the layers. So you're separating all of your lamination and pushing it into kind of a cornucopia shape. You're turning it into something that looks more like a cone. It looks like something you might see at Thanksgiving, just kind of pushing it all kind of towards the point in the middle. And this works really well with some warm hands, so don't worry about keeping the dough cold at this point. And then what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to put a little cream puff amount of pâte à choux right in the center. So right in that middle point, you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna pipe that right in the middle. You don't have to seal this bad boy because the pâte à choux dough is too thick to seep out of the sides while it's baking. So just kind of close it and then place it on a lined baking sheet. The holy grail of lining baking sheets is to use a silpat or silicone mat. So definitely use that if you have one. If not, parchment works just fine. Now, doing these over and over again, I had already made a very large batch of these, and the best way to do it is to complete a sheet of lobster tails, unfilled lobster tails that are ready for baking. Stick that in the oven and then start on your second sheet. So once these things are baked, they'll be flaky. There will be maybe a little bit of butter on the bottom, which is what makes the bottom crispy as well. But you want a very crispy, flaky piece of pastry. That's the big thing. And it's gonna be very tempting to just crunch into one with no filling in it. I would recommend you wait the full hour so that you can actually have some kind of a cream in the middle, just to cut the crispy crunch as much as you can. Now, these ones, it was funny because when I took them out of the oven, they were pretty flaked on the top, kind of looking like a lobster tail. And then as soon as they were sitting at room temperature, you could really see the layers separate really nice and pretty. So they got even better as they sat a little bit. So I waited about an hour before we added some Bavarian cream in there. Now, Bavarian cream is a third technique that goes into this pastry. This is something where it is a crème anglaise, which is a cooked custard of sorts, that is folded together with fresh whipped cream. So the whipped cream is not sweetened in any way. It's just plain whipped heavy whipping cream that's folded into the sweet crème anglaise. And I went ahead and I did 2 cups of heavy whipping cream instead of 1, like my Bavarian cream recipe asked for, just because I remember how light the New York pastry filling was. Now, you can do a Bavarian cream, you can do a pastry cream, you can even do just a straight up whipped cream that's been stabilized. Whatever floats your boat is what you should do. So I did a vanilla bean one where I actually let my vanilla beans steep in my milk as I made my crème anglaise. And then we folded in some frangipane for the second half of that one and made an almond Bavarian cream. So those were both delicious. I think the favorite was almond, seeing as how quickly they went in this family. They were just gone immediately. But the vanilla was just as delicious, and I think my personal favorite. So do with that information as you will. Now, after these pastries had sat for an hour and come to about room temperature, I was a little impatient for some of them, so some of them were slightly warm still. I went ahead and I took a chopstick. And I poked a hole in the side of these lobster tails. Now, not exactly the side, because all the filling would seep out, so side to top. So maybe like, 2 o'clock on your lobster tail. Go ahead and poke that that hole in there so that you actually have a spot for your cream. Now, the goal here is to poke into the pâte choux. So poking into that gap that your cream puff in the middle of your pastry created, that would give you the most room for the most filling, which everybody wants. So we definitely wanted that. And then go ahead and pipe in some Bavarian cream in my case, maybe pastry cream in yours. Just depends on your favorites. Now, once those are filled, the aesthetics thing to do, and what I saw in New York, is to go ahead and add powdered sugar dusted on top. But these are good as is. These are super buttery, super flaky, absolutely the best thing ever. Now, no pastry is complete without something to sip alongside it. So what I did is I did a little homage to my hometown. No, I'm not Italian, not even close. I am very Scandinavian, but also grew up in a place that is 90% Hispanic heritage. So I went ahead and I made a homemade horchata. So I started soaking rice 6 hours before I was going to go ahead and steep it. And then I turned it into some really beautiful horchata by blending it with some Mexican cinnamon sticks and some water and just a little bit of powdered cinnamon just to add a little extra kick. And then I put a teeny tiny bit of star anise in there as well, just for some extra oomph to my flavor. Now, you don't have to make a homemade horchata, but I would definitely recommend it. Now, when serving these ones, powdered sugar looks beautiful, or you can just sit alone in a corner and down all of these puppies yourself, because these are so stinking good. They are flaky, they are buttery, they are full of really gorgeous cream, so it's got like a velvety element to it. But with all of the techniques combined, I would really say that the flake is the best part of it. So really that rolling the pastry with the fat just completely transforms it into something that is absolutely mouthwatering and delicious, and definitely something that I would make again.
Really quickly.